wondering. And every single week during this football season, we will be joined by my friend and NFL insider for The Athletic. His name is Jeff Howe. Jeff will join us each and every Tuesday at this time to give us the latest information going on in the NFL. Jeff, thank you. We appreciate your time as always, my friend. Let's start with the local stuff here. Jimmy G. What was the reaction, Jeff, within the league when the Niners announced that Jimmy G was actually going to stay?
I think there was definitely some surprise, but I think it was the right decision. And I was just kind of surprised that both sides made a level-headed decision to, this is in the best interest for both of them. And I'll back it up a little bit. A couple months ago, I was talking to teams that were saying, hey, look at Garoppolo's $7.5 million injury guarantee. Like, if they end up releasing him, do you realistically think, they're asking this because they don't know, but this is kind of what they're looking at. They're like, do you think that Garoppolo makes more than $7.5 million with another team this season? Like, probably not. So to look at his side of it, financially, he goes back for basically what's a guaranteed $7 million. If he plays, it's more than that. So I think he might have maximized his financial value. He's, nobody wants to be the backup, but he's comfortable enough with the decision to say, to agree to this when he could have played hardball. He could have made them release him, and he could have gone and tried to compete somewhere else. But I don't know if that's in his best interest at this point in the calendar, or even like a week or two ago, because you got to compete for a job at this stage, and that's tough to do. And then for the 49ers, I thought it was just such a smart decision. And I don't view this as an indictment on Trey Lance. I view this more of, they know that they have a championship caliber roster. They're built to contend yet again. If Trey Lance goes down, if he struggles, then they can go to Garoppolo and they can get themselves where they're trying to be at the end of the season. So I thought it was smart all the way around.
Does that if that you threw in there, can that be a poison pill for a franchise and in a locker room that if is hanging out there when it comes to Jimmy G stepping in if Trey Lance struggles?
I don't think anybody would have wanted to do this if they thought that Trey Lance was going to be negatively impacted by it, or if they thought the locker room was going to be divided by it, or if they thought that Garoppolo was not going to be a good teammate. And again, he's going back willingly. Like, nobody forced him to deal to sign this contract. So he knows what his role is supposed to be. And if they need him, then they're going to go to him. Now, it's, you sit there and you wonder, what if? Like, is Trey Lance going to struggle? I mean, there are going to be struggles. I think we all know that. He started 2 games. And it's just it's a massive unknown with any quarterback prospect. And I think, as you guys know, I think very highly of Trey Lance. So I expect him to do well. Now, again, it's going to be a bit of a roller coaster ride because he's got 2 career starts, and you go back to college, and it's been since 2019 since he started a full season. But, like, the unknown is always going to be there for an unproven quarterback until he goes out and he gets the game experience, and he's got to start counterattacking what defenses are going to do when they realize what he's doing well. So, yeah, it's going to be a season-long journey, and we'll see where it gets him and them. But, I think – again, I like the fact that Garoppolo is back there to support him if things go awry.
Jeff Howe of The Athletic is with us here, Cattles and Rami, Sactown Sports. Jeff, you know Josh McDaniel's well from covering the Patriots for a number of years. How do you think he'll impact the Raiders this season?
Positively. And I spent some time out there with the Raiders in camp, and it was, I have no idea why my wife is FaceTiming me right now. just got she's upstairs. She knows I'm working. Anyway, sorry about that. I asked McDaniel, point blank, we had a really good conversation, but over the last 4 or 5 years, or really since he turned down the Colts job, he did a good job of saying to the New England media, I've done a lot to try to learn from my mistakes in Denver, and I'm doing everything I can to make sure that when I get the second opportunity, I'm better prepared for it. And so I said, all right, now that you're here, now that you're in this chair again, what have you kind of put into place? And just kind of listening to him go through it and how much more comfortable he is delegating tasks to the staff. How, when he was, put it another way, he got to the Patriots when he was a 23-year-old. He got to the Broncos when he was a 32-year-old. His entire coaching life professionally was watching Bill Belichick. So, there's this knock on guys, Belichick assistants who go elsewhere and fail, that they tried to be too much like Belichick. And there is some truth to that. But with McDaniel's, it wasn't that he was trying to be like Belichick. It was just he was kind of acting the way that he saw, Belichick act. So it was like, when you're stressed, when your back's up against the wall, when things are really intense, you're going to go to what you know. And for him, that was maybe not necessarily being himself. He said that he tried to take on too much responsibility because he wasn't as comfortable delegating. That has evolved over the last decade plus. So, and then another thing I really liked was he made sure to tell his roster the why. If you're practicing outdoors and it's 115 degrees, here's why. If it's raining and you're practicing, here's why. If you're changing up something in the regimen, here's why. And it's like, I don't have it in my playbook to sit here and say, this is what you're doing today, just shut up and go do it. No, he wants to explain everything. And I think it's made for a really comfortable working environment. Or I know it has, just from the conversations I had out there.
Nick and I were talking about this Raiders team, and we agree that it's one of the teams with the largest gap between what their floor might be and what their ceiling might be. We both see potentially 10 or 11 wins, but I also think this is a team that, or 10 or 11 losses. I also think this is a team that could win 11 or 12 games just because of all the question marks that are surrounding them. But they could be a very good football team, but they're also, things could go the other way. Would you agree with that assessment, Jeff?
Yeah, I think there is a wide range. I also think, looking at that division, you could say that really about all four teams.
True.
And, I think the Chiefs have more room for error than the Raiders, of course, because they've won six division titles in a row. But, there are question marks there. And all it's going to take, because that division is so talented, all it's going to take is like one or two things to go wrong, or one or two injuries from one of those teams having, let's say, a 3-game losing streak, or falling just enough behind the pack that all of a sudden you're like, we were a damn good football team, through X amount of weeks, and now all of a sudden we're in last place because we had 2 bad weeks. So there's such a lack of room for error with all four of those teams. But yeah, there are some question marks on the offensive line, I think, and with the defense. But, I think they've improved in some areas. It is a team that made it to the playoffs last year, and I do think that Josh McDaniels is with his offense, with his leadership, with Devontae Adams, it's going to make Derek Carr better. It's going to make a lot of things better.
Last one for you, Jeff. Before we get into this season, how would you describe the situation surrounding Mac Jones in New England as they prepare to kick off?
Very much in flux. It's a situation that I really cannot ever recall seeing. Because it's not really going out on a limb there. It's different. It's very different. It's got people in the league confused. Now, there are some people in the camp, I asked somebody, are you concerned about the coaching? And the immediate response was, well, Belichick's still there, right? So you got some people who think that, hey, you know what? Belichick deserves the benefit of the doubt. I've talked to other people who are very confused. And I don't know if concern's the right word because they're competing against these guys. But, certainly more question marks surrounding the coaching. When you've got Matt Patricia's the expected play caller, he hasn't focused on offense since 2005. This has never been a question mark. You go back to Charlie Weiss, and then Josh McDaniels, and then Bill O'Brien, and then McDaniels again. And, of course, you got Tom Brady there too. But it was the offensive play calling has always been a massive strength. And right now it's a huge question mark.
Jeff, thanks for the time, man. Let's do it again next week.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you. There goes Jeff Howe, the Athletic NFL Insider again. Jeff will be joining us each and every week. He's one of the best in the business.